Valley News Live at 5.
The former Minnesota police officer who fatally shot Dante Wright during a traffic stop has now been arrested. Kim Potter will be charged with second-degree manslaughter in connection with Wright's death. She was taken into custody this morning and is being held at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in St. Paul. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office has classified Wright's death as a homicide, adding that he died of a single gunshot wound to the chest.
I know Kim made a tragic error that she's going to have to live with for the rest of her life.
This man was a former Brooklyn Center police officer who went out on calls with former Officer Potter. Brian Peters says Potter was known for volunteering her time to different causes like the Special Olympics. Peters briefly commented about the disturbing video where Potter grabbed her gun instead of her taser.
And fighting with someone, your mind kind of races from 0 to 100.
Peters says that officers have their gun on their dominant side and a taser is typically brightly colored to distinguish it from the firearm. He doesn't believe she ever faced discipline while they were working together. Potter has helped train new officers and served as president of the Brooklyn Center Police Officers Association. We're certainly not feeling it today, but there is a warm-up headed our way. It'll just take a few days to get here. Let's find out how conditions look for this evening. Summer?
That's right, Andrea. Things are kind of gray and gloomy so far for today, but much of that snow has come to an end. We're just seeing a few flurries, but taking a live look at our Home of the Economy Skycam network up in Devil's Lake, you can see some of that snow is still on the ground. It's not a lot, but some locations did receive a lot. Walhalla received 6.5 inches of snow, 6 inches in Hallock, 5.6 in Greenbush, Minnesota. Pembina picking up 5 inches of new snow. Warroad 4 inches, 3.5 in Grandin, 3 inches in Thief River and Langdon, 2.7 up in Grand Forks, and from South Fargo, a report of 2 inches. Right now, things are just looking cloudy. A few flurries here and there, but our conditions have been drying up even though the clouds are sticking around. It has been breezy as well. Right now across northwestern Minnesota is where we're seeing the gustiest conditions out of the northwest, gusting to 29 miles per hour at this hour in Fergus Falls, and Grand Forks just reporting a gust to 30 miles per hour. For the rest of our evening here in Fargo will remain cloudy and temperatures will be falling. I'll let you know how long you want to keep your jacket for tomorrow and yes, when that warm-up will finally be coming our way.
All right, thanks, Summer. A woman is in jail for leading police officers on a chase this afternoon. Officers say they tried to pull over Jaden Kaiser for a moving violation near 24th Avenue and 20th Street South in Grand Forks. They say Kaiser sped away. Her car eventually came to a stop at 13th Avenue and 20th Street South. 4 men are now convicted after a months-long investigation into the poaching of white-tailed bucks in Barnes County. The 4 men are Jacob Ashline and Payne Drake, both of Valley City, and Calvin Burenson and Ryan Rudolph, both of Spiritwood. The convictions include many misdemeanors, fines, and loss of hunting and fishing privileges for Ashline, Drake, and Rudolph. The Game and Fish Department says the men were charged with what officials could prove, which is about 10 bucks. The investigation started in 2019 when officials found deer with their antlers removed, but no meat was taken. Wardens are thanking citizens for reporting the suspicious activities that led to the investigations. Today marks the second day of defense testimony in the Derek Chauvin trial. The former Minneapolis police officer is charged with murder and manslaughter in the death of George Floyd last May. Reporter Wendy Woolfolk has more.
You swear or affirm under penalty of perjury.
Day 2 of Derek Chauvin's defense, disputing the prosecution's cause of death.
Mr. Floyd died of a cardiac arrhythmia due to hypertensive atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease during the restraint.
Slowly and methodically, a former medical examiner and forensic pathologist discussed the condition of George Floyd's enlarged heart and narrowed blood vessels, in addition to fentanyl and methamphetamine in his system.
How did the heart and drugs contribute to the cause of death?
They were significant, or they contributed to Mr. Floyd having a sudden cardiac arrest, in my opinion. That's how I would read it.
For the first time, expert testimony about Mr. Floyd's proximity to the car's tailpipe suggesting carbon monoxide poisoning could have played a role in his death.
This is just another potential insult, another brick in the wall, unfortunately, for the circumstances here.
But in cross-examination, the prosecution immediately refuted the suggestion.
What amount of carbon monoxide, if any, would have been in Mr. Floyd's breathing zone?
No, because it was not tested.
It was a yes or no question. You haven't seen any, have you?
I have not seen any data.
But ultimately, it's up to the jury to determine what evidence they believe. Wendy Woolfolk, NBC News.
U.S. Capitol Police were instructed to use their less aggressive tools in response to a possible riot on January 6th. That's according to an internal investigation. The investigation found that 3 days before the siege, a Capitol Hill intelligence assessment warned of violence from supporters of President Trump who believed the election had been stolen. But the former chief of the Capitol Police testified that they believed there was virtually no chance of violence. In tonight's coronavirus coverage, a panel of experts met today to discuss the extremely rare side effect that prompted a pause in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and how to proceed. Reporter Alice Barr has the latest.
A critical decision at a pivotal moment in the U.S. vaccine rollout. A committee of experts advising the CDC weighing the pause on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine while investigators look for a possible link to a handful of rare blood clots. 6 cases reported in the U.S. out of nearly 7 million doses administered.
We strongly support ensuring vaccine awareness of the signs and symptoms of this very rare event.
While popular, the single-shot Johnson & Johnson makes up just a fraction of the U.S. vaccine supply. The far more common Pfizer and Moderna vaccines have not been linked to serious side effects.
We have more than enough supply of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines to continue the current pace of vaccinations.
The greater risk may be fueling fears for those already hesitant about vaccines. A new study conducted before the J&J News shows 1 in 5 Americans don't want to get vaccinated. Top health officials insist the J&J pause shows that safety is the top priority.
To me, it's an argument for why you should get vaccinated, because the system is working.
With COVID cases and hospitalizations on the rise and new variants spreading, an urgent push to keep our best weapon, the vaccine rollout, rolling.
Health officials say if you got a Johnson & Johnson vaccine more than a month ago, the risk of a blood clot is exceptionally low. Anyone receiving the shot more recently should monitor for symptoms, but remember, they say the cases reported are less than 1 in a million. Moderna says its coronavirus vaccine is still highly effective 6 months after the second shot. The company says the vaccine was more than 90% effective at protecting against COVID-19 roughly 6 months after the second dose. It was also more than 95% effective against severe disease. Moderna also says that it's testing the vaccine in adolescents between ages 12 and 17, with nearly 3,000 participants in the U.S. Health officials in Clay County continue to be concerned about rising COVID cases in their area, saying that it has been the highest since October. It continues to be highest among the 20 to 24 age group. Clay County Public Health plans to administer 1,000 vaccines this week. Officials finally received 200 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but will not be using them because of the most recent announcement involving 6 women potentially getting blood clots from the vaccine. Officials said they will continue to educate the public on getting vaccinated as more vaccine rolls in.
We really need to focus on education about vaccine because there is still, the resistance of taking the vaccine, and that's what the providers who are trying to provide that vaccine have been faced with.
So far in Clay County, over 36% of the population has received the first dose and 26% have completed both. Over 45% of people ages 50 to 64 have received the first, and over 73% with people ages 65 and older on that first dose. You can head to valleynewslive.com to see the availability for vaccines. As Minnesota continues to ramp up vaccination distribution, Governor Tim Walz is extending the state's peacetime emergency. That allows the state to access resources to respond to the pandemic. The federal government and 46 other states remain in a state of emergency. The school, formerly known as Woodrow Wilson High School, now has a new name and logo. It's now called Dakota High School, and the logo features the state bird, a western meadowlark. The district renamed the school with input from the community after learning more of Wilson's history with racial comments and policies. It is Severe Weather Awareness Week in Minnesota, and crews want to give you a heads up for some testing going on in Clay County. That's next.
And it was a chilly day across the valley. Our high temperatures only topping off in the 20s and 30s, with the exception of Park Rapids and Alexandria. That's about 20 to 30 degrees below average. However, we do have a slight warm up in the forecast, although remaining below normal. I'll have your 7-day forecast right after this.